This is Giddy Up with Gareth Hall on this Friday and on Cox Plate Eve and Manikato Stakes Night. It's great to catch up with Dean Evans from Winning Edge Investments. Dean, good morning to you. Can't wait for this weekend, but I guess the big question is, what is this weather going to do in Melbourne?
Yeah, good morning, Gareth. Look, absolutely brilliant weekend, the Moonee Valley weekend with the Manikato and the Cox Plate. But it's always tricky doing these things at the moment with the weather this week and then most weeks because we're just sort of in this uncertain pattern. I know talking to one of the track managers at Moonee Valley, it's because these showers are forecast for both Friday and Saturday, and obviously they've got the back-to-back meetings. They haven't really watered the track, and so it's going to be interesting if the rain somehow misses. Then it's going to be a pretty rock hard track, and I'd say it's going to very much favour horses on speed and near the fence, and it might even out a little bit if the rain does come. But I think because they haven't been able to water the track, I think we are going to see a track, certainly at least on Friday, that's going to favour horses sort of on speed and close up and nearer to the fence. And then, it will really come down to how much that rain does come on sort of Friday afternoon, evening and into Saturday.
Let's have a look at the Moonee Valley Cox. Let's have a look at race 9, I should say. The WS Cox Plate, first of all. And we've got Zaki at forward 20 with Bet365. I'm Thunderstruck 13. Alligator Blood at 17. Mr. Brightside at $17. Mwanga at 26. Gold Trip at 15. Laws of Indices at 34, Young Verta at 50 to 1, Maximel at $51, Animo still at $2.50 and remains the solid favourite, Profondo at 80 to 1, and Bodegon, since the barrier draw, has had some really good backing into $8 now with Bet365. Dean Evans, who wins this year's WS Cox Plate?
Yeah, look, it's a really even field, I think, compared to some other years, and we've got quite a lot of horses who've been, running against each other pretty consistently. The likes of Zaki, I'm Thunderstruck, Alligator Blood, Mr. Brightside, Moanga, Animo, they've all been racing each other. So we get some fairly good lines on them. I think Zaki, from that gate one, that was the dream gate for them. We've spoken sort of before, the horse has a really high cruising speed. He races best when putting that to full use. His highest rating races have been when he's really put the hammer down early. And he went far too slow sitting outside Alligator Blood in the Underwood. And he went even slower outside Alligator Blood in the Might and Power, and he's not a sit and sprint type. So I think gate one suits him perfectly. He also has a tendency to lay in. And so, the fact that he's got gate one is just perfect for him, as it means Jamie Carr's going to be aggressive early, find that rail. And the horse doesn't tend to lay in when it sort of just finds that rail and leads. I think he'll lead with Alligator Blood sitting outside him. Bodegon, who you mentioned, tends to race on pace. And sort of Profondo, Gold Trip, Young Werther and Animo, I think, will be, in that first half. And then the rest of them will really be jostling for positions out the back. I do think this is the race for Zaki. I think, he's just got that perfect barrier draw. And I think he gets the chance now with Jamie Carr to really be ridden aggressively. He's at full fitness. I think they've been warming for him to peak in this race. And I think when they've really, had the horse ready to peak in races like the All-Star Mile and McKinnon and that sort of thing, is when he's really excelled. So I do think he's the one to beat here. Animo, is the obvious danger. He's been strong in all three of his Group 1 wins to date. He's a 6-time Group 1 winner, and he's beaten the nose in this race last year. He's going to be in the finish, no doubt. But I sort of see him napping 6th or 7th, and Zaki's going to get a break on him. Bodegon's a really handy import, having first run for Chris Waller. He's a Group 1 winner of the 2-year-old in France over 2,000 metres. Second, the French Derby, which is a very high rating race, and was third to the Melbourne Cup favourite last start. If it's too dry, I don't think Bodegon can win if the rain doesn't come. But if it's wet, which we expect, then he's certainly right in the mix. I thought Moanga was probably the best roughie. He was a really good run for a strong closing second in the Underwood. It was probably the best run in the race, and then he just had no luck. It was a bad ride in the Might and Power, and just a complete forgive run. I think he can be in the mix as well. I really like Zaki rated on top from barrier 1 to lead all the way, and I think he's a good bet here.
All right, then. So he's 420, Zaki, with Bet365 for the Cox Plate. Your thoughts on I'm Thunderstruck and even a Mr. Brightside, and Gold Trip also, I'm interested to get your comments on him dropping back to the 2,000 metres with the blinkers on from the Caulfield Cup.
Yeah, look, and we've seen some horses like sort of Saintly come back from a 2,600 metre run to win the Cox Plate, and Norbley came back from a Caulfield Cup win as well. So, it can certainly be done. I think Gold Trip is just getting better and better. He had no luck on the Turnbull when he was 3 wide, no cover on a good track, and then he was beaten ahead in the Caulfield Cup last start. I think if the rain comes, then Gold Trip is absolutely a winning chance. With I'm Thunderstruck, I just think he doesn't map as well as he did in the Might and Power. He had good closing sectionals in the Underwood and obviously narrowly beaten in the Might and Power, but he had the Gate 1, the Suck run, and I think he just doesn't map as well to get as good a run here. I'm Thunderstruck, so though he can certainly run a big race, I've got him more as a place chance. Alligator Blood, I think, just sort of had a picnic in front in the Underwood, and then, again, the Might and Power, and he faded. So I think a tough 2,000 metres is going to see Alligator Blood out on his feet, and I don't see him as a winning chance. I thought that the other one, only if the track happens to be bone dry, is Laws of Indices, who was actually a huge run in the two-rack, ran the quickest last 1,000 metres of the day. And, he's run really well when he actually gets on dry tracks. So if it was a dry track, I'd had sort of Laws of Indices and not a bad Ruffiado, but I think it's probably going to be too wet for him. And the rest I just don't think are winning chances.
So from a $50 staking plan then for the Cox Play, is it just $50 straight out on Zaki, Dino?
Yeah, look, that's what I'd recommend. Yep. But if you're a big fan of Animo and you're keen, and you think he's going to be hard to beat, then you could always have 25 on Zaki and just 25 on Animo as a saver. Yep. But I think Zaki's a good bet. I think he's going to peak here, and Animo just he sort of crabbed that turn at Caulfield, and just be interesting if he sort of does that again and loses a couple of lengths in the Cox Plate. He's going to have a lot of work to do to run down a real superstar on Zaki.
Let's have a look at the feature sprint there on Friday night at Moonee Valley. Of course, the Manikato Stakes and Behemoth. There's the blinkers on here for the first time. He's at $41, 11.11 at $17. Worked the house down Tuesday morning with the breakfast with the best. Streets of Avalon at 100 to 1. The Inferno at $41. Pulole is at $3.60. Shiquiro at 126. Rothfire at $7. The Astrologist at 26, September Run at 17, Bella Nipotina at $5, Rockin' Horses at a big price at 26, Jamea at 61, Best of Bordeaux's had some backing at $12 now, and then Coolangatta at $6. The emergencies have been scratched. They didn't gain a start. Dean, who wins this year's Manikato? I reckon Moonee Valley as well would be over the moon with the field here.
Yeah, look, it's a really nice field, and it's a race that we've had some superstar sprinters win this, Buffering and Lank and Rupee and Chautauqua, but they've got a really nice competitive field here, and this race is always can throw up a wide range of winners, from 3-year-old fillies to 7-year-old Entars in the last 10 years. So, every horse sort of with the weight scale gets a chance, and we could well see another blanket finish where you can throw it over a fair few, I think, here. One of the interesting things in profiling sort of the last 10 years is just that the leaders won 4 out of 10. Horses in the first 3 have won 7 out of 10. Horses in the first 7 are running have won 9 out of 10. So it's definitely an on-paces race. And like I said, I did sort of hear from one of the track walkers that they're expecting it to be an on-pace race. So, looking at the speed map, you've got the likes of Coolangatta, the Astrologist, and Best of Bordeaux from out wide, who, are going to really be pushing to lead and sit on pace. I think the likes of Rothfire and Bella Nipotina just map absolutely beautifully. And Streets of Avalon will probably try to settle handy as well, but he might get caught deep. You got Rockin' Horse and September Run and Paul Ailey. They'll be trying to settle, not too far back versus midfield, and try to get in from their wide gates. And then sort of the Inferno, Shakiro, Behemoth, Jamea and 11.11. My concern is I've seen them getting a long way back, and I think it might be hard for horses like them, despite some of them having great talent, to sort of run past them all. I'm very keen on Bella Nipotina here. Yep. Gareth, I got it rated clearly on top. I think, I sort of tipped it on top of the Moy. It ended up, I think, $24 bit for SP, and and sat 3 wide and was beating the nose. She trialled really well prior to the first up Moonee Valley win, and she was beating the second, at this track at Group 1 level last prep. I'm very unlucky. She should have won the Moira last start when she raced wide, no cover throughout, and was beaten ahead. So she's proven this track distance at Group 1 level. She's flying last start. She maps just beautifully there from gate 2 with Craig Williams aboard. And I think she's sort of rates clearly on top, and for me is the best in the race. I think Coolangatta's obviously going well, led all the way to win the Moira from gate 1. Drawn from gate 1 again here, which I think will be an advantage. And so, she's probably going to lead again, and that always makes them hard to run down in this race. Best of Bordeaux, you mentioned, second in the Golden Slipper, won the Roman Consul last start. Will be up front with a light weight. I think the key will be, if Tim Clark can get him to jump really well and make sure he's no worse than sort of outside the leader or even the leader if he can get there. If he gets caught 3 wide, then that'll make it pretty hard for him. Paul Laley can certainly win. Second beating the nose in 2 Group 1 races in Brisbane before this prep. And he hit the line well in the Moira, beaten 2.5 lengths and won the Scalacci. I think J Mac will get him, try to get him 6 or 7 so he's not too far back. But, getting far back it makes it tough. September Run won the sort of Group 1 William Reed last prep, so he's probably a bolter, but I just think might get too far back and that might be hard for her. And Rothfire's probably the other main one who won the McEwen first up, ran the best closing sectionals of the race, was beaten 2 lengths in the Moira, and I think will be in a long way, but I think, I've got Bella Nipotina rated a fair bit better than Rothfire with similar sort of map positions, so quite keen on Bella Nipotina here to break through for her first Group 1 win.
Yeah, love the push. Bella Nipotina, Craig Williams, David Eustace and Kira Mara. Got about 35 seconds, mate. So have you got a quick tip for me in the Spring Champion in Sydney? Which way are you leaning there?